Hello everybody. I never anticipated in my wildest dreams when I did that video about detransitioning yesterday, the response I would get, personal responses to my inbox and my Gmail. And I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not a psychologist, I don't play one on TV, and I haven't stayed at a Holiday Inn Express. So let me be perfectly clear about that first. But the overwhelming question that I got from across the board was, how does one really know that one is transgendered? And let me just say, there's no assurances in life about anything that we may believe about ourselves, and it's subject to change without notice. When we're young, life, if we think of life as like a pool table, and when you're young, you tend to be much more optimistic about life, and in the grand pool table of life, every shot that you shoot is 8 ball in the corner pocket. Everything works out beautiful. Optimism, because we don't know a lot about the bumps and upheavals in life, because, well, our world has been very defined by just a small world that we live in. Now, of course, that's much more expanded by social media. But when we're particularly young, our world is very small, and then it expands out, from family to school to friends. And today we have the outlying layer of social media on top of it. So it's put a layer of confusion on top of things. And if you don't think that social media influences people, well, I could direct you to videos of people that talk about getting in the trans woman, that talks about getting in front of people's screenwriters, and if you just normalize what it is to be trans, don't draw attention to it, but ways to influence society for acceptability. And this is not about acceptability or not acceptability. It's about being infused from the outside of thinking that may not originate from within. When we're optimistic, particularly when I talk to young people over the years, and I've been kicking around a lot of years in the trans community, and I have a lot of wonderful friends, but their experience is so much different than the experience today. We had the real life experience where you had to live a period of time before you got on hormones. And, well, 80% of the people in my class for my gender counseling, well, they bailed out of the program because they got a taste of what life would be like. And it wasn't exactly what they thought it would be. Granted, they weren't on hormones and things, but if you think hormones is going to change you significantly, well, it may physically, but maybe not as much as you might believe. Maybe more than you ever dreamed possible. But remember, when we're young, we tend to really idealize our lives. We think everything, that pool table of life, that every shot is going to be perfect. Every decision we make is going to be correct. We tend to telescope our life. We look far out in the future. Do we? We never think about, how am I going to feel when I'm 30, or if I had a double mastectomy, or how am I going to feel if I'm sterile now because I've been on hormones a lot of years. You'll have a box that you check off on a form, due diligence, that says, yes, I understand what this means, and we just run down, check, yes, I've been duly informed, because we think everything is going to work out. We're going to find that perfect person to settle down with, and, well, they'll be able to negotiate and hit the turns of life with us just fine. But it doesn't always work out that way. Sometimes it takes somebody with a lot of experience, a lot of decade under their belt, to say, whoa, put the brakes on a little bit and think about what it is. Think about, is my decision from within me, or am I being influenced by others, by school, friends, most of all social media? In other words, did this idea originate from within me, or did the idea of being transgendered come with that? Does it seem like a escape hatch for life? Like I get the sort of the Walter Mitty syndrome, I get to live life all over again as somebody completely different and reinvent myself? or did it come from within you? And that's a really, really, really critical question that you have to think about. I call it the desert island analysis. In other words, suppose you were born and raised on a desert island. Okay, you had no outside influence from books, magazines, radio, movies, television, social media. You never even heard what it is to be transgender. You don't even know what it means. You never, just thought never crossed your mind, or did it? That's what I call the desert island analysis, which really makes you sit back and think, did it really originate from within me, or is it through my ears, my eyes, and the thoughts of other people? The main thing, though, is to not telescope your life, to make a very intelligent decision, right? We know the younger you are, the more that your opinions and ideas are apt to change as you grow up and mature. We don't think the way at 20 years old that we do at 14, do we? Right? Most of us look back and, my goodness, at 30 years old, do you think like you are at 14? My goodness, no. Most of us sit back and say, gee, man, I'm lucky I didn't, I'm lucky I didn't do this, or, join the army, or right? Right? We look back at our decision to say, how could I have ever thought, right, I'm going to be a Major League Baseball player or whatever. Man, I can't even pick up a ball, right? Something like that. When we're young, and that's one of the beautiful things about being young, is our optimism and exuberance is overwhelming for life. And we imagine the best case of everything, that pool table of life, that every shot we take, every decision we make lands perfectly in that corner pocket in a beautiful 3-point bank shot. The older you get, the more you realize those bank shots, those beautiful shots, come few and far between in life. And a lot of times when we think that we've made a good shot, years later somebody comes and yanks the ball out of the pocket that we shot it into and said, no, you were wrong, right? Rack them up again. Here we go. My point is that the worst thing that you can do in life, particularly when you're young, is very hard to avoid, because the influence of others, the opinions of others, means the world to us. Acceptance, especially in a world of large numbers now, with 350 million people in this country. Where do I stand? How do I differentiate myself? How do I make myself stand out in the crowd? Where do I stake my claim in life? Right? And you'll notice in life that as we go along, the staking the claims becomes more and more unusual compared to the history, say, of humanity. Right? We've taken pronouns to unheard of levels before, and if it's your thing, I'm not berating. I'm just saying this is a fact. Right? They, them, and for a single person and things, it's all, just take stock and notice. Not everything that goes on in the world, as I hinted at and mentioned yesterday, is geared for the good. If we believe there's such a thing as good, then you have to believe there's such a thing also as evil influences in life, and influences that may not have our best interests at heart. These are the things that in 2024, it's very easy to discount that. And, I believe in angels, but I don't believe in their counterparts and things like that. Well, we'll leave that for another topic. But my point is, influence is the currency of today. This is why we have social media influencers. And a lot of people think, if I can just get before them, I can change their mind. I can shape their thinking. It's a very, very... right? Facts no longer speak. It's opinions and influence that matters. And no matter how you feel about life, that there's some sort of perceived safety in numbers. In other words, the more people that there are, that consider themselves trans, the better it's going to be for me. Not necessarily so. Right. The big question it'll be, did it really come from within? Or is this totally the product of outside influences on your thinking? It's very easy to come in now and advocate for something that's very popular at the current time because, well, we won't have to deal with the consequences 10, 15, 20 years down the road. The physician that wrote the prescription for the hormones, the psychologist that signed off on it, if there was, they'll be long gone by the time that some of the consequences may pay out in the future. And one of the most difficult things is when you're young, is this natural tendency to be very, very optimistic and telescoping about your life. The one thing I can tell you is if you're 14, 16, 17, 18 years old, when you're 30 years old, you're not going to think anything like you did when you were younger. Your values are going to be different. You're going to broaden your ideas of interaction with other adult people. Your thinking is going to change. And that's a very hard thing to look ahead. But remember the desert island thought. If you never heard of it before, and it was never in the media, the news, the way it is today, would you still be thinking the way that you think? That should be a real clue, perhaps even a warning sign about the future. All right, everybody, thank you. And as usual, if you do have questions, I can make it like new@gmail.com. I have a lot of questions I have to answer that have come in. I've been just overwhelmed with the volumes, and of course, requests to do interviews and things like, to discuss this and other things, and we'll see. But for now, I think it's important to touch on that. Okay, your comments are welcome down below as usual, and if you're not subscribed, this is just a tiny part of, well, what's been a goofy channel for a lot of years here with vintage audio. We're adding crabbing, fishing, moonshining, making moonshine, life on the rancho here, right? Homesteading in the hood, right? Center City, Santa Rosa, California. Travel, adventures, it's live streams. I hope that you'll be a part of it and partake in all of the goofy stuff that I do here. So subscribe and hit that bell for all notification. And thanks for letting me answer your question, okay? I really hope that helps. Thumbs up are appreciated. Thanks, everybody.